right, so yesterday we talked about multiplying and simplifying our fractions. Now we're going to talk about how do we divide fractions. So let's say we have this division problem, 1/2 divided by 2/3. It's actually fairly simple to divide these. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to flip the second number, which means I'm going to take the numerator and the denominator and flip them around so that the denominator is now on top and the numerator is now on the bottom. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change it from a division problem into a multiplication problem. And let's see what that looks like. So now I've flipped the second fraction and I've changed it to a multiplication problem. Well, if you remember, how we multiply fractions is we just multiply straight across. So now I can multiply 1 times 3 to get 3 and 2 times 2 to get 4, and there's my answer, 3/4. Now, by flipping the second fraction, I'm creating what's called a reciprocal. Reciprocal is just when I have a fraction or I have a number and the opposite of that number is just going to be the original number flipped over. So the reciprocal for 1/2 is 2/1 because I've just flipped that number over. Let's look at some other examples. All right, so the fraction 3/4, the reciprocal is 4/3. Again, I just flipped the original over and there's my reciprocal. Here's another example. The reciprocal for 6 is 1/6. Well, now that doesn't actually make a lot of sense. How does that work? Well, the way that works is every single whole number, 6 is a whole number, can be written as a fraction over 1. It's the same thing. The whole number 6 is the same thing as the fraction 6/1 because what this is really telling us is 6 divided by 1, which is still just going to give us 6. So if that's the case, then the reciprocal for the number 6 is going to be that flipped over, which is 1/6. And we can do the opposite of that as well, where if I have the fraction 1/10, the reciprocal is going to be 10 because again, 10 is a whole number and I could write that over 1. And then you can see 1/10 flipped over, 10/1, so that's the reciprocal. The cool thing about reciprocals is that anytime I multiply them by each other, I multiply the reciprocal of 1/3, which is 3/1. If I multiply those by each other, my answer is always going to equal 1. We can see that here. 1 times 3 is 3, 3 times 1 is 3, and any fraction where the numerator and the denominator are the same is equivalent to 1 whole.